host, Julia Napini. I am a clinical and forensic social worker who owns a counseling practice and a consulting business. In this show, we discuss the challenges of being successful in business while maintaining your integrity and staying true to yourself. Join me while I interview other professionals and share insights from life and experience. Let's talk about RingRx, our latest sponsor. RingRx is a high-quality, HIPAA-compliant telephone, text, and fax communications platform. They provide seamless, cost-effective communications for behavioral therapists, medical practices, hospitals, and other healthcare providers. RingRx is designed for modern healthcare environments. They offer customizable features like a phone app, automated patient outreach, voicemail, after-hours call routing, and top-quality desk phones. Try RingRx for free today at ringrx.com. And if you sign up using the code CLIMB, you'll get 15% off your monthly bill forever. Conditions apply. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Compassionate Climb podcast. I am here with a guest that I was lucky enough to get to know a little bit better after being on her podcast. So I'm looking forward to hearing that back. We had a great conversation about the importance of community and the ways that we are expanding beyond one-to-one therapy and getting innovative and really creative with how we do that. So I'm looking forward to sharing her with all of you today and learning more about her journey. So Shawn Hondorp, welcome.
Thank you so much. You did it. Good job.
Well, welcome to the show. So happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me as well, Julia. I loved our last conversation and I'm pumped. I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah, likewise. So I really enjoy how these connections just happen. So we know some similar people and to be able to have these intentional conversations with people that just get it and are discovering the magic that happens when we kind of find our secret sauce and we're utilizing that in our work and then other people catch on and community comes from that. So share with all of us your journey, anything that's relevant from your career climb that would help set the stage for the work that you're doing now and how you're doing it.
Yeah, happy to. I'm really doing so many things different than I thought I would be doing. I went to grad school right out of undergrad, very focused on this academic research path. I wanted to be a researcher in a health center. I wanted to write NIH grants, and it's really interesting to look at like where I'm at now. So essentially, I got out of school. I did a hospital job, working in bariatric surgery and preventive cardiology for about 6 years, and then about 5 to 6 years ago, I left to do private practice. So I have a solo private practice out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. But ever since I left that job, I always kind of knew I didn't want to do clinical work full time. That's been a knowing. I do really enjoy clinical work and I'm really enjoy many like my client sessions. Like I feel like, especially in private practice, you kind of get to like really find those people that you are in your zone of genius with. And that's what I like to talk to people about now is finding that work that like lights your soul on fire and is energizing. But throughout the last 5 years of entrepreneurship, I also never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. I've had these like side projects. So I've had my podcast, the Innovative Therapist podcast I renamed it. It used to be called something else, but I've had that for most of my entrepreneurial journey. And I've always done these out of the box things and they've been like super life-giving to me. And so now I work with mostly therapists, occasionally coaches who want to use their skills and in innovative out-of-the-box ways, in ways that are energizing to them and are really allowing them to use their gifts in the world. So I'm really happy to be here. Sometimes I'm like, gosh, it would be easier if I didn't want to like continue to change what I'm doing. But that wouldn't be true to who I am. And I think in many ways, like the path I'm on today is really honoring like younger parts of me that always wanted to be an author and wanted to dance in really emotionally expressive ways. So I danced growing up, and so we might get into that too. But dance as an adult over the past like 4 years has been one of the most healing things I've experienced in my life. So that's a little snapshot of the path I've been on, and it's been a ride.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with, I'm thinking as you're talking and reminiscing about the first 30 years of my life and how I was following, it was almost like a script where, you get these messages from society about how you're supposed to do things and the order you're supposed to do them in. And I was just checking off the boxes, one foot in front of the other. And there wasn't a lot of consideration for what truly brought me joy. Fortunately, I picked a career that I am still in today and have found ways to really, it sounds like, do what you've done as well, which is step outside the box and kind of look beyond what the traditional role and responsibility would be of somebody in the mental health profession. But it's taken quite a bit, and it was really scary, but it was also really empowering. So what can you share about the turning point for you, if there was one, when maybe you had a realization that things weren't in alignment, or that light that you talk about, like what sets your soul on fire, maybe was dimmed a little bit? Because I'm assuming from a lot of other conversations that I've had with people on the show that that's usually where a lot of this would come from. Was that part of your journey, or was it different for you?
I mean, I think there's been a lot of them. I think the way, at least how I experience my journey, is there's pivotal moments. Like there's the moment where I was sort of tolerating the hospital job, and I did a lot of pre-surgical bariatric evals, and I knew taking the job, like I liked doing therapy more than assessment. And there's like these pivotal moments where it just got bad enough, and someone had left, my colleague had left, and I was like, I'm going to have to do more evals. Like I cannot do more. I'm already like so not lit up by this work, and it was a big portion of my work. So I'm grateful for that moment. But what's been interesting is I think like there's always been this connection to like this wanting to feel more alive, wanting to have like a life that felt exciting and felt like I was actually. And so I think even though in grad school I was, not lit up in many ways, like I had cool friends and we'd go to like travel, and we'd go run, one of them would run Boston Marathon, and we'd go like have these like adventures, so I kept this like connection to this aliveness. But even recently, I just probably a few months ago, I had this realization of like grief of like, I am so much healed and happier than I was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, but like I still want more. I still want more, and not being so apologetic about that. And the grief of like, if I had these dreams, even in grad school, I remember like I traveled to see a friend who lived in the Netherlands, who, she was an au pair there, and it was just like the best trip. And I remember like having, I don't know, my people being like, well, and mostly, I guess my mom, sorry, Mom, she won't listen to this, but like being like, wait, what are you doing? You're supposed to be focusing, right? And I'm like, it was 2 weeks and I had a free place to stay. Like I found these ways to stay connected to the aliveness. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, we only get this one life. And I've always kind of had that drive to continue to make it as much as we can, versus like, I guess, accepting the default way of working, which is like, for a lot of people, pretty soul sucking, if not at least just moderately soul sucking.
So do you think a lot of this reevaluation for you came about post-pandemic? Because I know that was the case for me and a lot of other people, and I'm trying to match up the timeline.
That's a good question. For me, it was after having my second kid. I had him right before the pandemic, 2 months before. And at that time, I actually, before the pandemic hit, I had planned to leave my hospital job. So because I was like, okay, we plan to have 2 kids. And so I think there was a growing sense of like, this isn't going to work. I had hoped to like build a career I loved within the hospital job. That's what I thought I was going to do. I loved some of the work I was doing there. I loved some of the teams I was working with, but, yeah, the pandemic hit, and ironically, I felt loyalty because of everything going on with healthcare. So I stayed longer because of the pandemic. So I was like, there's so much going on with our healthcare system, and I want to support providers. We were doing a little bit of like mental health support within providers in the system. So I did stay longer, and then my friend left or my colleague, and that's what put me over the edge. So I think it was sort of like, how much can I tolerate? How much dissatisfaction can I tolerate? And then it tipped enough where I was like, I have to leave.
Yeah. So before we get into some of the things that light you up that you have alluded to that sound like much more a part of your world now, what did your entrepreneurial journey look like? So those early stages and that decision to start your own practice, and then how you began kind of diversifying and exploring different avenues within that once you had created your own thing.
Yeah. So the therapy side of things, like the solo, I've primarily done teletherapy, has honestly been the easiest part of my journey. I mean, and I'm very grateful for and I have a pretty specific niche within like, especially in the past within like disordered eating, but also the weight loss world. So that was easy to get referrals. In fact, I found myself for years being like almost like pushing back on referrals because I didn't really ever plan to start a group practice. I kind of knew that wasn't for me for the most part. And so that part I'm grateful for, but from day one, I actually had a non-compete for the first year. So I had limited ability to see people in my area. So I tried to build, and I did build, a group coaching program for like body image. It was called the Body Respect Program. I'm really proud of it. I launched it 3 times, but by the 3rd launch, I had to raise the price to try to make it more sustainable. And it just did not sell. And I was relieved because I was just like, I was in major overworking at that time. I was in like strategy and planning and like just, if you build it, they will come kind of mentality. And I was trying to build this like thing that I hoped would, and it also was like the online world was a totally different world in 2020 as well. So I was having early success like with these programs, and yeah, I burned myself out majorly, not on the therapy side really, but I always had that knowing that I wanted to build something else. So I kind of built that completely. It didn't all fail, but the overarching system failed. And I took a break in some ways, but I always maintained my podcast. And I've dabbled with like almost every stream of income I've tried. Like, even if it was just like one-off workshop for professionals with a friend of mine, like that sounded fun. So I've built a lot of things. I thrive and I get a lot of energy from building, but only now have I started to, and I'm honestly still in this pivoting growth phase of like, I did my first retreat in October 2024. So not quite 2 years ago. And that was sort of the like, whoa, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be like bringing people together in this intimate container. And I'm supposed to be kind of a zone of genius of mine is like connecting deeply with people, but also bringing like really cool people into the same space. Like, so that's felt really good. And then really now, and I'm probably still in this, is like learning to work through my money stuff, learning to like actually be able to receive a price for my retreat that actually allows me to not make like $10 an hour, right? Like, even though I'm super proud of what I did, it wasn't, I did make money. Some people like just try to break even on retreats. I know we talked about that, but yeah, for me now it's like stepping into that entrepreneurial mindset and the leadership that takes and the visibility, and like all the fears come up. So I'm still in it, but it's good. It's a wild ride, but I'm learning to like just hold myself differently through it and
Yeah.
enjoy the process for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of things that you mentioned there, and I see so much relatability to people that I've connected with, and I know people in the audience, I'm sure, have experienced something similar where we feel this kind of pull for something else, and we want to find a way to leverage our skills. And there are so many different avenues. So I personally know how hard it can be to choose the right avenue, and some of it does require some exploration and some experience before we decide. So what can you share from your experience? And I think you're kind of in a really good spot to give people the reality, because you're kind of still in the midst of it, but getting a lot of clarity, it sounds like, along the journey, when we're not really sure what direction to go in. And we know that we want to increase our impact, and we know how important community is, and we want to utilize those skills that we have. What was helpful for you to decide what direction, or what would you advise to someone thinking back on your experience that is maybe a little bit earlier in their journey and wanting to do all the things?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I would say, and this is where the creative process comes in. Like, I see so many parallels from when I engage in my creative process, and this can be a variety of ways, but for me, the biggest one has been dance. The same stuff shows up when you show up with a creative process with like choreographing a dance as it does with creating something in business and creating something innovative. And I think the first thing I would say is like learning to enjoy the process and notice how you feel in the process, because what I was doing earlier as a business owner was just like push through, tolerate, whatever, like just, I spent so much wasted time doing things that people told me strategy wise. Like, I'm trying to think of even just like SEO, which is like, doesn't even matter now, or like not in the way we thought. Right. And just, I was just trying to like check all the boxes and do it right. Because as you were saying, like in my PhD program, pretty much you just follow the steps and do it right. I mean, it's not that easy, but like there's a roadmap, right? And I was falling into this like, well, these people tell me this is the roadmap, so I'm a rule follower. I can abide. And it's like I wasn't listening to my body. I wasn't enjoying the process. I was, even with the podcast, it'd be like, you have to come up with a weekly episode. And I did for like, I think a year and a half, because people told me that's how no one else will push through and be as, like consistent. And it's like now with my podcast, I give myself a ton of freedom, which probably has hurt my consistency, but I think it's such a joy the way I do it, and I love it. And so I've learned to like do it in the way that I love. And I think it's allowed me to be more authentic, connect with, like you said, the right people. And so learning to enjoy the process. But I think there's a balance too. Like, I think I've tried the creative process with dance where there's no outcome. So to actually do a lot of performances now. And so it'll be like this September, I'm choreographing a dance with a friend, and we have a date. We have like constrictions and parameters around it, but we're choosing it. So having some also accountability, but checking in throughout the process. Is this still feeling good? Because I think it's okay to let things go too, especially for if you're like me or you and we have like a lot of ideas, not having shame. I mean, I fail all the time. I just had an event that's supposed to be next weekend locally that didn't fill. And I was like, I could do a marketing push, but I'm like, I'm tired. I don't want to do that. Like, and it's not really a great use of my time. So just building those skills of like discernment. But ultimately I choose to do things now where I usually enjoy most of the process. I'm not going to say it's always enjoyable, but I enjoy most of the process, and I'm able to push through the discomfort of like, do I wish my retreat would just easily fill? And like, it kind of did the first time without having to like tell people about it at all. Yeah, 100%. But I'm able to find ways to share it with people that feel okay to me. And that's like my form of aligned marketing versus like what other people tell me I should do. So yeah, find ways to enjoy the process and know you're going to come up against your stuff, your parts of you that are like, what will people think? Or like the same thing comes up with my dance of like, what will people think if I really choreograph in the way I want to, be the emotionally expressive person I want to be. And I stay true to that. Same with my retreat. If I really own and like raise my price some and do it the way I want to do it, like, oh, must be nice. What if people judge me? You know, it's like getting a little more comfortable with like, yeah, that's just a part of me trying to protect me.
Yes. Okay. I like how you're saying that. So, in addition to enjoying the process, I'm hearing you say that just because a strategy worked for someone else and they might be encouraging you to follow that same step, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work in the exact same way for you. Mm-hmm. So, listening to your body, I'm assuming, is a good tool for discernment. Anything else that you have found personally that really helps to make sure that you're headed in the right direction and not getting derailed by maybe the wrong advice or the wrong direction?
Yeah, I think the other thing that for me and for people I've interviewed, because I've interviewed a lot of people at this point, is like, ironically, the people who have more success have less of like this 1 to 3 year roadmap. They are sort of following the creative breadcrumbs. And I also think like, they're like, I also think looking back on what you've done and the work you're already doing, maybe in the therapy room, and what's working well, right? And really like, what's the secret sauce? What is my magic that I'm bringing to that? And then how can I continue to offer that or bring that in another way? And I do think that is where it's a little bit individual. That's where I've gotten into like human design and these different like ways, and Enneagram too, of like, how do I understand myself? Because the way that I create is going to be different than you. And to some extent, right? I think this like following our joy, following our creativity, following our breadcrumbs, listening to our body, that's like pretty universal stuff. But yeah, like at least the human design model has been really helpful to me, because it says for my type, I'm supposed to just initiate and create the thing that I want with less feedback. Whereas other people are more designed to get like be responsive to, oh, someone else is coming to me and being like, will you create? I interviewed Stephanie Feld, who does intensives, on my podcast recently. And she was like, I had people coming to me saying, will you teach a workshop on this? And she was like, well, I don't see why not. But that wouldn't necessarily work for me. In fact, like if someone's like, I want you to do this, I'd be like, no, I'm going to do it my way, because that's, I don't know, maybe that's just how I'm designed in the world. And so I think honoring, like, sometimes we look at other people, right? And we're like, I'm supposed to do it like Julia. And it's like, maybe if you and I are pretty similar, we might have some overlap for sure. But that's where some of this has to come through trial and error, right? Of like, when I was like trying to force myself to create what I thought other people wanted. And some of that is my people pleasing too. But some of that is like, I'm not designed to do that. I'm designed to like create what in a sense of what I want, but also like, you're obviously not just like, oh, I don't care if you like this or not. But, I'm creating things that people don't necessarily even know that they want, so they don't know to come and ask for.
Interesting. That is such an important distinction, and why I absolutely love whatever model works for people to really reach that next level of self-discovery and understanding, and then taking that and running with it and giving yourself permission to do it in your way. So it seems like that's worked really well for you. So I'm curious about the statement that you made before about feeling called for more. It seems like you're on the right track, but you're still in the process. So what has given you that indication that that's where you're at? And what is your process looking like now to achieve that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, a lot of it for me is my work is always slowing down and doing less, as you may know, since my Enneagram type was also very helpful to me as a 3, right? Like,
yes,
just, I mean, I battle with this still all the time of like doing less and carving out time for me, it's sometimes walking. More often now it's dancing. And I've gotten really good about like half the time I'm dancing behind me in my office. I do have a studio space I can go to, but you know, if I don't have time to drive there, and I just dance for a couple songs and I get into my body. And then I usually, after that, when I'm in my body, I might do a short meditation, maybe, but I prefer dancing to get in my body. And then I'm writing down. In fact, this is from my mentor, who was a therapist a year ago, but she's not now. And she talks about like the wouldn't it be nice list, which is just, that's the prompt. Wouldn't it be nice if? And we're just starting to dream about any area of your life. It could be, you know, what do I want to achieve? What kind of travel do I want to do? But it could also be, wouldn't it be nice if I felt really supported in my business? If I found people to work alongside that felt collaborative and energizing, right? And tapping into that. And so trying to create that space for me to do that. And then she talks a lot about how do you want to feel? And so I'm just crediting her. But like, so for me, it's like I've been pretty good about feeling alive and excited and energized. But my work lately has been stuff like, well, how do I feel nourished? I feel grounded? How do I feel more worthy, more deeply worthy of exquisite care, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's such a great prompt. I am so glad that you shared that, and it's been so helpful for you. That's something I'm definitely going to take with me. So what is your go-to music?
Well, I'm really into, this artist my friend shared with me recently, Inga Rose. I tend to love like really emotive music that allows me to feel and sometimes cry. And Inga Rose, Celebrate Yourself, or Celebrate Me is actually the song.
Okay.
Like I love that. That's like a current one I'm dancing to a lot.
Love it.
But yeah, I mean, I like lots of different types of music. I love like a more Motown, like soulful, like old school, like Otis Redding, or just like something that you feel it in your bones.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like
Very
fun
cool.
pop music too. I love like my daughter's really into like, but she was into K-pop Demon Hunters, or like just like fun stuff that makes you want to dance. I do Broadway dance too, like once a month, and it's just like so much fun.
Oh, that sounds great. So I'm interested as well with your day-to-day now, how that looks maybe comparatively to a prior time. So, you know, you've kind of illuminated what it was like when you were working at the hospital. And then I'm thinking early stage of your practice, really client heavy. And so what do things look like now for you in the day-to-day?
Yeah. Well, client heavy, but then anytime I wasn't seeing clients before, it was like just so much tasking. And now it is, I mean, I was definitely working like 70-hour weeks back then for a little bit. And I was like, my body is literally not designed for this. Now I see up to 4 clients a day, Monday through Thursday. And Fridays I reserve for sometimes school stuff. Sometimes I'm with my kids. Sometimes I'm doing podcasts. But throughout those 4 hours, like obviously I have 8 hours most of the time my kids are at school. So I'm maybe walking or doing a cool interview like this, or working on a podcast, or working on a creative idea, building. I love to build. So I have my retreat. I'm right now in the process of building a mother-daughter retreat, which is completely new, and it's lighting me up. I'm holding back a little because I'm like, don't, you know, not in a bad way, but I'm just like, you got to focus on building one thing and filling it. But yeah, I love collaborating. So I've been chatting with a dietitian here who's really aligned.
Nice.
So.
So I would love to hear more about how the retreats came about for you. So did you go on a retreat yourself? Was that just something that seemed like it would work really well with the work that you were doing? What did that look like?
Yeah, I had a friend of a friend who's an entrepreneur and runs retreats. She's not a therapist. So I went her last minute. It was Traverse City, so 2 hours for me. They had a opening, and I was like, I'm going to go, because she teaches people to do retreats. But I was like, I'm just going to go watch how Anna does it and experience it, which I like experiencing things more than like learning about them. I think it's really a helpful way to do it. And yeah, that was November. And then in January, I booked mine for the next October, and I gave myself like a long runway, and I was just like, let's just see. And I booked it at a place near my house that was in a price range for the place itself, where it's like if it didn't fill, my family could just go on vacation there.
That's smart. A good plan B.
So,
And
yeah.
so what did that retreat look like? Who was that specifically for? How was it structured?
Yeah, it was 7 therapists and 1 coach. It was I called it the Innovative Therapist Retreat. At that time, I was starting to really get into creativity, but we had all of our nourishing meals. It was right on Lake Michigan on a beautiful like bluff. We were doing yoga. It was in October, but it was sunny. We were doing yoga. So I had yoga, we had massage, we had a private chef, and we had my thing that I added that I didn't tell them about was the Creative Endeavors show and share. And they're all like, what the fuck? Oh, sorry. I don't know if I could swear on this, but like,
you can.
Is this okay? Like this talent show, we're not all about it. It's freaking us out, but it was, I think, everyone's favorite thing. And so this was like just sharing something about your creative process with anything. And it could have been someone wrote a poem on the retreat that just they'd never done that before, but it just kind of came out of them, because that's what happens when you create this space.
Yeah.
Someone just shared something about their relationship with a grandparent, and it was like creativity can be so many things, right? But that was my favorite part, and just sharing how creativity is like looked in each person's life.
Yeah.
But we had other cool workshops too. But yeah, it was great. We're doing it again this October, and I think that the biggest like thing that makes my heart happy is we already have a bunch of people from last year coming again, or at least 2, probably 3, because it's a very intimate container. So it's like really about finding like, I mean, there's so many ways people are gathering. You're doing a lot of that, and it's like, but yeah, really finding the space that feels right to you, right? And it's like the right. I'm in this phase too where I'm like trusting, or trying to, mostly I do, of like trusting the right people will come. And I did experience someone else's retreat in Guatemala this past February too, because I think it's not only really powerful, and this wasn't a therapist, but she focuses a lot on play and dance, and I've also just had that experience and like been reminded of how amazing it was.
Yeah. I love that. So what would you say is your biggest takeaway from the phase that you're currently in business and in life right now?
That's a great question. I think for me, it's been like, we are all creative. We truly are. I'm definitely someone who a couple years ago would have been like, I'm not a creative person. Like, I'm really not. I'd never choreographed anything in my life. We can exercise these creative muscles, and I can't describe, because I've done so much therapy. But like the healing I've experienced through being the person I want to be in the world, whether that's in a dance class, whether that's dancing when no one's seeing, or whether it's just showing up, doing what I want to be doing. Like I have these moments now where I'll just be like in the car and I'll just tear up, because I'm like, I'm on the path. Like it's like, I just know I'm on the path, even though I don't actually have like a ton of objective evidence yet, which would have been so hard for me 5 years ago. I'm like, I need to see the money coming in. I need to see all of the evidence that I'm on the right path. But yeah.
Well, I would think what you're speaking to, it's reminding me of a conversation that I was actually fortunate enough to have with my mom yesterday, just kind of reflecting on feeling like I've kind of leveled up, where all of the things that I've heard from other people throughout the entirety of my life are really hitting me on a soul level, where it always made sense logically and I got it to some extent, but now I'm really experiencing it and the puzzle pieces are clicking in. And it sounds like you're in a similar place where what you're speaking about is really beyond alignment. It's that kind of worthiness, I would assume, that we feel within ourselves, feeling like we are where we're meant to be. We have the right people in our lives. We're believing in our own capability, that we've been through maybe some difficult things or endeavors that didn't maybe have the intended results, but that we came out on the other side of it and we learned things and we're putting that into practice. And if more often than not, we are doing those things that bring us joy and we're not overlooking those moments and really savoring it, I do think that's a big part of what the point is. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. Even as I hear you talk, it's like, I think of it because I am trained in IFS and I really like IFS as like this, because I've been open, like I've carried so much shame and unworthiness for like so long. And it's like, and I, released some by just talking more openly about having an eating disorder. And I released some about just talking with other parents about the struggle of shame about parenting. But it's like it's like showing that part of me that what she always wanted matters. And I'm going to keep moving towards that. Right. It's like, it's almost like I hit this wall where I was like, I can't solve or analyze or get rid of my worthiness, even though that's not what IFS therapy, like I even hit a wall where I was like, I don't know, therapy isn't quite getting me where I want to go to. And so I think we all have our different paths for that, but like me trusting that versus being like, oh, I just need to like do therapy more and better. Like, no, my healing was meant to go a different direction.
Oh, I relate to that so much. So I'm getting this visual as you're talking of like when I say level up, right? Getting to that next level or rung in the ladder. But I think for us and what you're describing is it's almost like we're shedding some layers. We're not carrying that dead weight anymore. And so we're able to move forward more easily and more gracefully because we don't have those pieces holding us back as much anymore. And we have the answers. We know what the answer is for us. It's just we have to quiet the noise. And so if that's happening when you're dancing or if that's happening through other avenues, trusting that, even if that's not something that maybe is going to get somebody else there.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, and I mean, I love our field, right? But it's like so many of us have been conditioned to believe that like someone else has the answers. And it's like, okay, tell me, it's like, and or like for me, it's like someone else or a book. And it's like, no, we all have these answers inside of us. And it's like, what conditions do we need to be able to access it? Right.
Ooh, that's so good because I've fallen into that trap too, right? I'm always looking for the takeaway when we get up on stage and we present or when we're having a conversation like this and interviewing someone for our podcast. What are the people that are there going to take away and implement? And it might work for some and they may have these breakthroughs, but it's what you said, it's creating the right container and conditions. And that really is going to be different for every person. So I think what I'm walking away with from this conversation is to get really clear on that. And that can be through human design or your Enneagram or your own therapy or just through your life experience. But I think the key is don't overlook what your body is telling you, like you mentioned. Don't overlook what's going on internally in your mind. Don't be afraid to just be still sometimes and do whatever gets you in flow so that all of those answers that we have internally kind of rise up. So it's a really helpful reminder. And I'm happy to hear that that has been working for you and that trust and faith that you have that is there, even without all of those tangibles. That's really significant.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. And it's like I think a lot of us, even though we know like more information's probably, I mean, sometimes information absolutely helps, but like a lot of us have a ton of information, right? And we're in this like AI information overload phase where information is literally at our fingertips, but most of us actually need help holding the space. And that's why, like, I mean, yeah, I guess that's why I do retreats. That's why I go on it. Cause I'm like, I need help. And some of my online community is literally like holding space to write for 30 minutes on Friday on Zoom because I need help doing that. Like it's like I want to be consistently writing and I wasn't doing it by myself. So I created a container for it. But yeah, it's the creative process. If you watch kids play, it's very fun. But it also is not always comfortable, right? They have conflict with each other. But they keep going and they figure it out because it's fun.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm thinking back to what we talked about before where I was kind of reminiscing about those phases in our lives when we're in school, or maybe we're at some of our first few jobs and we get so accustomed to doing what people are telling us to do, exceeding expectations. We get a lot of feedback, right? When we're in school and we're taking tests or we're writing a paper, and then maybe our performance reviews. And when you become an entrepreneur and you own your own business, you're not getting feedback in the same way that we've become accustomed to. And so we can sometimes look to a lot of those externals, whether that's your followers or whether that's people responding to your content, or, and if we're not getting that, we can sometimes question, are we on the right path? Are we doing the right thing? And I think you've given us some really great examples of some other ways to really look within ourselves and not ignore some of that feedback. That really what matters is, do things feel in alignment? How is our body responding to whatever we're doing? Are we kind of in that flow state? Those things are really what matters and can be so easily overlooked.
Totally. Yeah. We're not conditioned with we're conditioned out of play, Yeah. And I do dance and creativity, but I've been leaning into even more silly play that has no productive value, which is super uncomfortable for me. Oh my
God, for you as a 3, I feel for you, but that's wonderful.
And then I grade myself and I'm I'm doing better at free. It's okay, just.
Yeah. Well, it's you have to do it in a way that still is true to who you are.
Totally.
But that's so much of my Enneagram presentations when I'm working with teams or when I'm presenting to other therapists. A big piece of that for us is, how do we take the things that are the most uncomfortable and give us this formula to really challenge ourselves and open us up to all these possibilities. And it's absolutely doing the things that make us feel the most uncomfortable or awkward, but doing it in around the right people, doing it, in a way that still does provide what we need to be able to venture off a little bit and get more comfortable. So it sounds 100%. Like you're pushing yourself, but it's working. So that's awesome. So how can everybody learn more about you, follow along, learn about your retreat and offerings and the things that you've created?
Yeah, absolutely. My website is drshawnhondorp.com. That has everything. There's, I think, a button on the top about the October retreat. And I am on Instagram when I feel like it at The Innovative Therapist, at Innovative Therapist. No, just Innovative Therapist. And then, the podcast, the Innovative Therapist podcast. Right now, I am doing weekly episodes, and we have great content right now because I feel like it.
You're capitalizing on it.
It's the theme, but I would say too, if you really want to be in the know on things, because I do tend to create pretty quickly, my email list, getting onto that is the best way to be in the know. So,
I love it. Well, I will include the links to make it easy for everyone. I look forward to following along. Best of luck with everything that you have going on. And I appreciate everything that you shared today.
Thank you so much. It was really fun.
If you like what you're hearing, please rate and review. This will help others find us and benefit as well. The Compassionate Climb podcast represents the opinions of Julia Napini and her guests. The information provided is intended for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice. If that is what you are seeking, please consult an attorney.